Okay, I want to make a comment on this. This is a very interesting comment in a number of ways. What's most interesting to me is what he does here as a meta frame, kind of. He starts with some thoughts I wrote down. Right? They're not his affirmations. He's not necessarily making these statements, being willing to defend them or making arguments necessarily. He's framed the whole thing with some thoughts I wrote down. Smart move. I like that. I'm impressed with that in general. So that's worth noting, and being aware of shit like that is how it's done, you know. But this isn't going to be a love fest video or anything, but I appreciate his trickiness there, or his awareness of how that shit plays out like that. Alright, so let's see what else he has to say. FE coolness? How is SI more empirical than SE? I guess I must have said that, but I wouldn't normally say it was empirical, except here's how I would respond to that sentence, or the question is, well, SI is a knowledge function, SE is an action function. So, while SI is not judging, really empirical things should have some sort of interface or judgment to them, like TE or TI or FI or FE or something like that, are gonna utilize data in rendering either judgments or interfaces. But to the extent that SI is more empirical than SE, it would only be because it's a knowledge function. And it's a knowledge function that is born of empirics, namely experience. It's not a knowledge function that relies on intuition to know what is true about things they don't have experience with. SE is impactful on a physical level. That's not the same thing as empirical, really, but okay. So FE coolness. What I mean there is being cool. I don't mean temperature-wise. So he says, are not the FE break types emotionally cold? Right, well, they're emotionally cold, maybe. INTP, J, SIT, I see what you're saying. NITE or TI, and SITE, TI. I don't understand what the point is there, really. Yeah, I guess. I don't know this term, your break types, FE break types. I'm not familiar with that term. I get what it means. I mean, it can derive its meaning from the context, but regardless. Why is any about finding anchors? It's not about finding anchors, it's about what one does with anchors. So, it's like, SE is about finding anchors. You look around, let me have some little thing in my field of vision to be a story starter. I don't remember what I actually said in this video, so I don't know what I was meaning exactly then, but this is like over a year ago. How is SE more follow through than TE? Well, this is a good question. Now, it's true that INTJs and ISTJs are very good at follow through, and that but know what they're very good at. They're very good at follow through because they're very good at not overcommitting. In other words, they use TE to be effective and efficient at whatever. That includes necessarily being at least competent at SE follow-through. For an ISTJ, that's easy because they're ignoring SE. For an INTJ, it's a little harder because their SE is in the fourth slot. SE equals tactical execution in the present context, not strategic execution. Right, I know, that's why it's follow-through. Okay? So, if it were strategic execution, it would have to jettison follow-through. Because strategic thinking is all about the outcome ultimately. And strategic thinking allows tactics to have their role as well. So naturally, you're not going to be thinking strategically if you're following through on what's already been planned. You're just going to be doing what's already been decided. Strategy means things are still undecided, right? Or one is understanding that it's a changing and flexible situation which one has to react in complicated ways to, or in adaptive ways to, not necessarily complicated, but adaptive. All right, so that's not disagreeing with anything I said. Universal equals NE. Okay, NE is a metaphysical function, which means it deals in things that are able to be rendered into binaries, in other words, universals, in other words, principalism, particularism. It deals in words rather than in, well, not principalism and particularism necessarily, but it deals in words rather than in experiences. But NE with FI, it doesn't lead to moral universals. No, NFPs don't have moral universals. They have subjective morals that they think are universals. NETI leads to actual moral universals and rejects subjective moralism that is on the negative side. Super id NE is what makes SJs so loving of a universal. Okay, well, you mean third and fourth slot? Is that what you mean by that? Super id NE? ESFJ want FE rules. Launcher NE to get the FE going. ESTJ want a standard operating procedure. ESFJ do want FE rules. That's true. ESTJ does want a standard operating procedure. And because NPs create a lot of new universals, they appear not to be following any particular one over a long period of time. So the thing is, you can't do that without making a distinction between NFPs and NTPs. So it's important to remember that NFPs do not create universals at all. If they position them as such, it's simply because they're wrong. They're particularists because they use a particularist tool function. Specific context equals SE. Well, all functions have two capacities. Look, there are two dimensions to reality. There's a real-time dimension, which is experiential, physical, and causal, and then there's a turn-based dimension, which is metaphysical, conditional, turn-based, you know. So while it's true that SE is in its most natural element in the real-time dimension, it still has to manifest some aspect of attention across time. And the way we understand the thing across time that occurs that is best represented by SE, the way we ought to understand it, is when you're following through on what's already been planned. Because, you see, execution of something is not something it's instantaneous. It depends on what you're executing, right? I know I got to move the chicken coop over a little further or later on today, and I'm thinking about how I want to execute it. That's TE. Do I want to take it apart again, even though I took it apart yesterday, put it all back together because I was sure it was in the final spot, and then it turned out not so very? Or do I want to try to break my back and just, since we don't have to move very far, just kind of like, move, even though it's super heavy? It's a TE question, right? Now, the execution part, the fact that I'm not wondering at all about the fact that whether or not I'm going to move the chicken coop, that means that when I go to start doing the thing, I'm doing the SE of it. There's no strategy, right? Because it's a turn-based kind of SE. It's following through on what's already been decided, and so my actions in the moment don't require me to react in the moment, except insofar as I'm responsive to changes in what I'm doing, and that would be more of a TE thing. That's why TE is an interface function, whereas SE is an action function. So, the answer to that question is, you're right, SE is most comfortable when it's in the moment, and it's least fit for across time shit, which is why across time it basically plays out on following through on what's already been decided. In the real-time moment, it's about opportunism and pulling trigger in the moment and noticing immediate changes in the immediate environment. Absolutely the case. But yeah, you got to get the dimensions right before you're gonna be able to go beyond there. So, like, things that are predicated on your wrong understanding of dimensionality are necessarily going to be themselves wrong. How does viscous TI slow down STPs? Well, having worked a lot with an ISTP, I think it's really interesting. If any is about improvising, then ISFP and ISTP must suck at improvising. Correct, they do. It's quite remarkable, in fact. It's quite remarkable how much they suck at improvising. Hi, Susie and Abraham. I'm responding to a comment by one Ben somebody about who's challenging some of my definitions of things, and I'm having to inform him about how he's wrong. So just give me a couple more minutes, and I'll be finished with this. So what was I responding to right there? Oh yes. How does viscous TI slow down STPs? the thing is, if I said that in this video, I should have phrased it differently, because it's not that they have weak TI, and I've learned a lot about STPs, ISTPs in particular, working with Aaron, a student whose mom hired me to help him with interview skills, because even though he got a perfect score on the ACT, he has 11 AP tests under his belt, something like 8 or 9 when we got perfect scores on 5 out of 5, you know, and he's got 1B his entire high school career, and his mother, his Chinese tiger mother, is determined that he's going to get into Harvard, god damn it. So the point being that yes, it's true they suck at improvising. When I first met with him, I was just like, oh my god, this kid is so dumb. Well, why? Because I was checking for intelligence using ideational action, ideational activity. He's got none. He doesn't come up with new ideas. He's not creative. He's not clever in any sense. It doesn't mean he's not smart. He's going to go to Harvard, I'm sure. You know, he's either going to get into Harvard or Princeton or Yale, one of those things. He's one of the top candidates in the country. There's only a couple thousand kids in the whole country got a perfect score on the ACT, out of millions who take it. So, you know, I'm not saying, I shouldn't have said in that video that their TI is viscous. Like I said, it was a year ago. My understanding of cognitive functions has improved since then. It was over a year ago. So I would say that instead, their TI is great, and their nature is not such that they embrace abstract generation. So that's just how it is. It's like Aaron's just as smart as me, but not as one person in a billion would think that after they talk to both of us. They go, Eric's way smarter. It would be wrong, but it just goes to show you how much weight people put into displays of word work. The fact that I do word work really well makes people think I'm smarter than I am, and people who don't do word work very well, people think they're dumber than they are. So, I mean, you know, I don't know what to tell you about that, but it's just how it goes. I'm susceptible to thinking those things too. I'm not immune to it. So I have, in the past, underestimated the intelligence of TI users who weren't intuitive. Since FE is about caring about other people's perceptions, I'll leave you with this. In this 10-minute video, I heard 2 F words and shit said 15 times. I'd watch more frequently if it were nearer 0 in both categories. Well, thank you for that feedback, and please go fuck yourself with 10 bags of shit. Beyond that, I got some other shit back here that I want you to fuck yourself with, and then go fuck yourself some more. I don't give a fuck if you watch it or not. I appreciate your comment because it was interesting, but if my profanity bothers you, then you dislike honesty. Because one of the clearest correlative links that you can establish at all is the clear link between profanity and honesty. The reason I cuss a lot is because I'm aware that that shouldn't matter, and I'm not somebody who hold back and try to obfuscate things when the truth is right in front of me. So you can take your fucking suggestion and shove it up your fucking ass where all the shit lives, okay? Go fuck yourself. But thank you very much for the comment, and thanks for you for watching Talking with Famous People.